My name is Beth. I am a registered yoga teacher. Among lots of things I do, I blog at sublimelyfit.com, and one of the things I'm really passionate about is getting people started, helping them get started on their fitness journey. Obviously, as a yoga teacher, I am really excited about getting people involved in yoga. So tonight I wanted to get on and chat through some of my favorite yoga poses for beginners to start with. I know yoga can seem very daunting if you are new to yoga, especially when you see poses of people in these crazy arm balances, and when you feel like you need to have a lot of flexibility to start yoga, you definitely don't. So I wanted to just show some of my favorite yoga poses to get started on your journey. I want to start with child's pose. It's one of the more popular poses. I teach primarily a Vinyasa Flow Power Yoga class, and when I teach at the studio, and child's pose is the pose that we say it's a pose of honor. Anytime you need to honor your body, you can come back to child's pose during your practice. So if you're ever practicing yoga and you're working really hard and you feel like your breath is getting away from you, your breaths are becoming very short, always feel free to come back to child's pose. There are a couple different variations of child's pose based on where you want to put your knees. So always starting with your toes together. If you would like to open your hips a little bit more, you can bring your knees wide, which helps. You might have just been able to hear my hip pop, which helps to stretch a little bit through the hips. But if your hips are very tight, just keep your knees narrow. You can even keep them together if you would like to. And then walk your hands out, bringing your hands about shoulder width apart. You can have a resting child's pose by keeping your elbows on your mat, or you can walk your fingertips out a little bit more, spreading your fingers a little wider, lifting your elbows up, and then you simply bring your forehead down to your mat, or if you're very tight, you can place a yoga block or some other support beneath your head and rest your head down. So that is child's pose. Pretty easy peasy to get into. And next one I want to show you is downward facing dog. This is one that can take some time to build up strength to get into. So just be patient with where you're at. Just hold it for a few breaths as long as you can. You could come back out even to child's pose and then come back into downward facing dog to help build up upper body strength. You do need some upper body strength to get to some more advanced yoga poses, so that's something that as a beginner you may be aiming to work on. So if you are still building up a lot of strength, you can use a chair in your downward facing dog, bringing your feet hip width apart and your hands are shoulder width apart, and then shifting more weight into your hands, trying to keep your back flat. So this would be one option if you're really working on upper body strength. But if you do have some upper body strength built up, you can just come into downward facing dog and then just work on holding it for longer periods of time. So again, I'm going to bring my hands shoulder width apart, my feet are hip width apart, and my wall's getting in the way here. I'm pulling my heels to the ground as I pull my heart closer to my thighs, and I'm letting my head hang. My ears are between my arms. And that is downward facing dog. Again, hold as long as you can, come out of it, and then come back in to keep building strength. Another one that's a good strength builder is low lunge, Anjaneyasana, and again, there are different variations of that. From downward facing dog, you can sweep your leg forward, or you could simply come into it. If you're starting on building strength, you can keep your back knee on the carpet or on the mat, depending on what you're doing. Your front foot is stacked beneath your front knee, so you don't want your knee to come forward. This is bad. This puts extra stress on the knee. So you want to make sure that your knee is either stacked over your ankle, or you can have it back a little bit, but try not to, again, let your knee come forward of your ankle. And then when you look down from on top, your knee should be tracking over the middle toe of your front foot. So those are just safety alignment things. And then for low lunge, you can keep your hands on either side of your front foot. This is a great stretch through the front of the hip on the back leg if you press your hips forward. And then as you work on getting stronger, again, building strength will allow you to get to different yoga poses. Curl your toes under and coming into the lunge, pressing a lot through not only the muscles that are on the top of your leg, but also the muscles on the bottom of your leg, and really engaging the back leg as well, gripping your muscles to your bones, trying to get that leg nice and solid. Also trying to keep your ankles stacked over the toes of your back foot. If you press back too much, that can put tension on your Achilles tendon, this tendon here. So it's a good idea not to press back too much through the heel. And that also, building strength in the low lunge, will then allow you to get up to crescent lunge, where you keep your feet the same. You just bring your arms up by your ears and you're coming up to standing. So that's another great one to work on. Hip openers are something that everybody loves. I used to teach a happy hips and hamstrings class that was a favorite among pretty much everybody, so I want to show you a couple nice hip openers. The first is recline bound angle pose, or Supta Baddha Konasana. It's a nice relaxing pose, even great as a restorative pose. So what you do to come into Supta Baddha Konasana is you bring the soles of your feet together, your knees come out wide. You can keep the knife edge or the outside edge of your back feet glued together. If your hips are very open, you may be able to bring the inside part of your feet, like next to your big toes and on the inside of your heels, open. That's okay. And then you simply lie on your back. We always, at my studio, take one hand to the chest, one hand to the belly, which allows us to connect with our breath. You can feel yourself taking nice deep breaths. When you do that, you bring your focus to your breath, instead of your focus being on all of the thoughts in your head, and that helps you clear your mind, which helps with the meditative aspect of yoga. So that's a great one. And then the other hip opener I'd like to show you for the other side is reclined pigeon. So if you have a very, very tight hips, you may only be able to bring your leg in a little bit. Pigeon pose is going to stretch the outside of your leg. So if you can, bring your ankle, one ankle over the thigh of one leg. You can even keep the back foot on the carpet or on your mat if you're very tight. If you're a little more open, you can reach through the hole you've created in your legs, grabbing onto the back of your thigh or onto your shin to pull your legs through. And you notice my feet are flexed. That helps to activate the muscles a little bit better. And so that is a great way to stretch the outer hip. And again, make sure that you hold that pose for the same amount of time on the other side. And that is a nice gentle way to start working up into more advanced versions of pigeon. And then another reclining pose that I would like to show you is bridge pose, which is really great for building strength through the legs and also through the glutes, which keeping strong hips help reduce a lot of injuries in the hips and in the knees. So very good to practice those. To come into bridge pose, you're going to lie on your back one more time. You're going to scoot your feet in so that when your arms are by your sides, your fingertips of your longest fingers just graze the backs of your heels. And then you're going to press through your heels to lift your hips up, pressing through the tops of your thighs and the backs of your thighs as well. And if you'd like to strengthen your glutes, you have the option to engage your glutes, or you can practice on releasing them and just pressing through the tops of the thighs if you're working on thigh strength or quadricep strength. So you hold this for a few breaths, slowly lower down one vertebra at a time, and then you can do multiple rounds of your bridge pose to keep working on strength. Balancing poses are wonderful for helping to build up strength in the ankle, and then also there are lots of different types of balancing poses in yoga, so it's good to start with some basic ones so that you can build up to more advanced balancing poses. Tree pose is going to be one of the more basic ones that I always recommend for runners. For tree pose, you're going to ground down through all four corners of one foot. What we mean by four corners of the foot is this point on the outside of the ball of the foot, this point on the inside of the ball of the foot, and then either side on the bottom of your heel. So think about grounding down through all four corners of one foot. The other foot you can bring up so that your heel is at your ankle and your toes rest on the mat or your carpet, whichever you're doing. And that is tree pose. If you're working on balance, you can even always use a wall if you need to for balance. Another option would be to bring the foot up into the calf. In that case, to make a nice strong solid base for your legs, think about pressing your standing leg into your foot as much as you press your foot into your leg, and that helps create a nice base. And then once you're more advanced, you can bring your foot up to your thigh. But try to avoid pressing your foot into your knee. But when you do that, when you press the standing leg into the knee, it actually puts stress on the knee. Think about the leg is like actually pressing to it from the side, and that can actually hurt your knee. So I know it's a nice little knob for you to rest your foot against, but please try to avoid doing that. It can actually be pretty dangerous. And so that would be the balancing pose I'd recommend. And then while we're vertical, also do want to run through, what do I want to say? Warrior Two, which is another great pose for building strength. So my back, I'm going to widen my stance. My back foot is going to be parallel this way, and then my right foot is going to come at a 90-degree angle. So my feet are lined up like this. They're just spread apart. The heel of my front foot is lined up with the arch of my back foot. I'm going to sink low. Again, this is another one where you want to make sure that your knee is not coming forward of your front ankle. Keep it stacked. And then sink low. You can always bring your feet wider as you get stronger and as you can sink. Think about pulling that front knee back towards the pinky toe of your front foot to help open the hip of your front leg, and then bring your arms so that they are parallel to the carpet out from the shoulders, and sink a little lower. Working on building up strength in the thighs, again, engaging the tops of the legs, the muscles in the top of the leg, as well as the muscles in the back of the leg. And then pulling your shoulder blades together, shoulders melting down, so you have a nice proud chest. And that's another one that's awesome, awesome, awesome for helping you build strength. I want to end with Shavasana, corpse pose. It's the pose that we end yoga classes with. It's really a perfect pose for meditating, which makes it honestly one of the hardest poses that you will try. It's incredibly hard if you've never meditated before, if you haven't practiced clearing your mind. Very, very hard to do. So if you struggle with it, don't feel bad. The physical aspect of corpse pose is pretty easy. It's the mental aspect that's incredibly difficult. So just work on building up to that. What you do to come into corpse pose is bring your legs long below you. Your feet can flap open wherever is natural to you. And lie on your back. I like to shimmy my shoulder blades under a little bit to help open my heart. I have a tendency to hunch forward, so that helps me even that out. And then I'm going to either bring my palms up if I feel like I need to receive energy, if I'm feeling a little tired, or I can place my palms down to stay grounded if I feel like my mind's just kind of going all over the place. And then I close my eyes. If you have like a towel handy, you could place that over your eyes. And then simply lengthen your inhales and your exhales, bringing your mental focus to your breath to help you clear your mind. So even counting breath is a good idea that can help you clear your mind, counting back from maybe 20 or 30. And when you lose count because you're thinking of your grocery list, that's okay. Don't get frustrated with yourself. It happens to everybody. Just go back to counting, be gentle with yourself, and the more you practice it, the better you'll get. But honestly, corpse pose, Shavasana, that is one of the hardest poses to do if you're doing the mental aspect right. Super, super difficult, but start practicing it right away. It's amazing how much that mindfulness, that ability to be present for even a minute or two, that helps calm everything down so much. It helps calm your body, helps calm your mind, and you will feel completely different when you really work on that. So I really do hope that these poses have been helpful for you. I hope that they help you get started on your yoga journey.